everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Paris, I'm the author of the Magi trilogy. These two books right here, The Magi and The Illusion of Fear, are the first two in the trilogy. Book 3, Belle Destine, will be released on August 25th, so soon you can have the complete set. In today's video, I want to talk about the difference between plagiarism and taking inspiration from other writers in the broad sense of creative writing. Because in other fields of writing, specifically academic writing, plagiarism is very black and white. You've either stolen somebody else's work or you haven't. In the creative writing sense, there is a little more wiggle room, and not wiggle room in a way where it's like you can kind of steal more and get away with it. I mean wiggle room in that your inspiration could come from another works, but when you put your own creative twist in it, it turns out to be something completely different, and that is not plagiarism, that's inspiration. I have heard a couple people say before that there is no story out there that hasn't already been written. The difference between your story and all of these other stories is that you yourself have not written that version of the story yet. And I think that, not necessarily advice, but I think that statement is a little, I'm not in love with it, because the reality is not every story has been written. However, the baseline of that quote I can agree with, and that there are only so many quests your characters can go on. The quest trope, the hundreds, probably even thousands of characters have gone on a quest before. Most books have some sort of quest trope in it. Let's be honest, that is the reality. So if you're using the quest trope, yeah, that trope has already been written, but your characters haven't gone on a quest yet. Your characters haven't been involved in it. You haven't written a quest yet. You yourself could write 3, 4, 5 different books that all have the quest trope in it, and they're not going to be exactly the same. The baseline, yeah, the main trope, maybe even parts of the plot are very similar, finding hidden treasure, some sort of romance. Yeah, it's all been written before, but you haven't written it. And this is, again, there's going to be some sort of creative twist in everything you do. Plagiarism is when you take somebody else's work, whether it's intentional or not, and put your name on it, claiming it as your own. In an academic sense, this is very black and white. You either wrote the sentence or you didn't write the sentence. You either summarized somebody else's work and cited it, or you summarized somebody else's work and didn't cite it. Very black and white. You get flagged, you get, your 0 on your essay, whatever academic repercussion it is. Very black and white. With creative writing, it's a little bit different. It's different in that, well, still, if you take somebody else's work, if you take somebody else's scene, if you take somebody else's character base, yes, that's plagiarism. But if you're taking inspiration from somebody else's work, if you're taking inspiration from something else, that's okay, because you can get inspired by anything and you're putting your own twist on it. There's a few different specific examples I can think of for it that will help you realize the true difference between plagiarism and inspiration in a creative writing sense, because again, it's different in other forms of writing. Let's talk about names at first. Names, in a general sense, aren't copyrighted. Now, if you're reading a fantasy book and this author created a name, like they invented the name themselves, it's like a very long, complicated name, the names that you can't necessarily always pronounce but look absolutely beautiful on the page, those are a little different because there's only one other character with it. It's kind of obvious who inspired the name for you. That can be a little bit slippery. But the name James, for example, it's common, it's not copyrighted, people have it in the real world, people have it in books, people have it all over. I mean, most of the writers I know have a character named James. I have a character named James. I can think of like at least 3 or 4 other authors who have a character named James off the top of their head. The difference is that while these characters might share a name, their personalities are very different. My James is 17 years old, McKenna Rowell's has a James and he is in his 20s. I don't know his exact age, but there's a difference. They come from different family backgrounds. Her character is an adult fighting in the Revolutionary War. My character is a 17-year-old with a tragic family background. There is a difference in the characters where they share the name, but nothing else, no personality. Now, there could be a broad sense, like I mentioned before, quests. Like a quest is basically where your character has some sort of mission that they're achieving, and your mission could be similar to another character's mission. If they're trying to find hidden treasure and you read this book and you love this book, you love the hidden treasure, you love the every aspect of it, you love the character relationships. Maybe it's 3 characters going on this quest together and you think, I want to write a quest too. And you also have 3 characters going on a quest and they run into certain problems. But in this original book that you inspired, they fall off a waterfall. And then in the book that you're writing, they are in a river fighting. You know, there's differences, and it's not necessarily plagiarism because your characters are different than their characters. Yes, you both have 3 characters, but your the characters in the first book, they are purely friends. There's no romance involved. But with your characters, you do have a couple mixed in there. It's kind of more, maybe it's a love triangle. You know, there's a lot of different aspects where you can take inspiration, and it's not plagiarism. Now, if your end goal of both of these quests are, okay, so, you know, the waterfall scene, and then there's a river scene, and then later on they get attacked by some sort of a bear in this book, and they get attacked by a wolf in this book, and then at the end they need to go into this big cave, and their cave is just like a regular cave, and your cave is underwater. Maybe then you're going a little too far with it. Maybe you need to twist more. You need to add more of a creative twist. Because again, we don't want to take other people's work, but you are allowed to be inspired by it. You are allowed to be like, I loved this story, and I love the character dynamics, and I love the exploration of this moral lesson. I want to take this moral lesson and explore it too, but I'm going to do it in my own way, in my own words, with my own characters, with my own story, with my own plot. You can take inspiration without plagiarizing, but it is a slippery slope. The Unwanted series by Lisa McMenn is commonly advertised as, I think it's even on the cover of some of the books, as for those who love Harry Potter and Hunger Games combining it together. And it's used in a good sense. It's used in a marketing sense. You can see where inspiration from other books, similarities to other books, doesn't count as plagiarism. It makes the book stronger. She took an inspiration, or maybe she didn't, but I'm assuming she took inspiration from these books, twisted it together in her completely own sense. And yes, I can see when I read those books that there is similarities in the broad aspects of, you know, there's magic, and there's I need to be careful on YouTube what I say, but you know, there's Hunger Games type stuff going on, but you combine it into different things, and there's different forms of magic than there are in these books. There is a different mentor, there is a different world and society built in. Books often advertise that for lovers of the Maze Runner or for lovers of the Divergent series, whatever it is, it's showing you that there is an inspiration there, that it came from the same kind of baseline place, but it's a completely different book because Harry Potter, the Hunger Games, and the Unwanted series are completely different from each other. Yes, there are similarities. There are similarities in the tropes and some of the morals discussed and some of the characters, but in a broad sense, it is completely different. I think it's actually a good thing that books inspire new books and songs inspire new songs, and whatever it is that you're doing, something you're doing can inspire somebody else, and then whatever that other person does inspires somebody else, and so on and so forth. For me, with the Magi series, I was inspired by different books. You will notice like that Will has water powers just like Percy does in the Percy Jackson series. Miles has lightning powers just like Zeus does in the Michael Bay series. There are similarities in the baseline of their powers. There are other books out there with lightning powers, other books out there with water powers, countless different books. In some ways, it's classic power type of stuff, but it was inspired by something else. And if in turn somebody one day gets inspired by my book, if they love reading about a character who can teleport, maybe they put a teleporting character in their book. That idea is not copyrighted. It's not my unique idea. It is something that I twisted in my own way, and then when you use it, you'll twist it in your own way, and when somebody else uses it, they'll twist it in their own way. You can see what a baseline idea is not necessarily copyrighted. It's not necessarily plagiarism to use a certain aspect of a power. It's different when it's a unique character that is completely spun in a certain way and you spin a character in the same way. But when you get inspired, when you take that baseline idea and create it into your own thing, when you twist it in your own way, you take that skeleton outline, that's completely okay. And honestly, in some ways, it's an honor. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it helped highlight some of the difference between direct plagiarism and inspiration, because there definitely is a difference, and it's a difference that's sometimes fine at times, but in creative writing, when you start twisting that baseline idea into your own words, it creates something completely different, because you could read a dozen books with the quest trope and not one of them is the same. Thank you again for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and whatever time it is, whether it's morning, evening, or night, have a great day.